Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Walmsley. I'm the founder of the Arts and Culture Network. We're a growing global community of 185,000 now across our LinkedIn groups, right across the arts, all over the world. Our motto is choose people who will say your name in a room full of opportunity. I don't get to meet everyone, but when I do, it's a pleasure. And that is absolutely the case today because Morten Klementsen has joined me for an interview. Morten and I have been sharing each other's posts on LinkedIn for the last 3 or 4 years, I believe. And it's a delight to be able to introduce him to you. So we're going to have some fun today. We're going to have a look at some of Morten's recent work. He can tell us the stories behind them. And I'm then going to create Morten's fantasy cultural year from the
Wow.
answers to some easy questions to which there are no wrong answers. You'll be pleased to know. But before I do that, Morten, I wonder if you'd be kind enough to say hello to everybody and tell us where you're based and a little bit about the work you're currently doing.
Okay, I will do that. Well, I'm a dinosaur. I can start with that. I'm 62 years old and I began with digital art about 3, 4 years ago. But I've been, I'm educated as a graphic designer. So I've been in and out, and I had my own businesses in design for all kinds of shooting movies and everything in advertising. So my way into this was by advertising, and I still have some advertising things in my head I can't get rid of. But I'm from Bergen, Norway. Bergen is on the west coast over to Mark. And well, we say we are not from Norway, we are from Bergen. That's where the Vikings mainly, the worst Vikings live.
Many of whom came to our shores. Yes.
I know.
Yeah, which is wonderful. Love it. I have an ancestor, Halfdan Skull Splitter, who was a king of Norway, and I think the Orkneys. He captured the Orkneys. I think he's a 25th.
Wow.
Goes back a long way, but apparently, yes, I have I have
Mm,
I have Scandinavian roots. Um,
good.
Excellent, wonderful. Thank you for that. Let's dive in and have a look at some of the work, shall we? So.
Yeah, yeah, please.
I'm going to share my screen now. So here is Morten on LinkedIn, if you'd like to find him there.
Mhm.
And I think where did the website go? I think it's here we go. This this
Yeah.
this is the right place. Now I love this. I've been browsing this before our meeting. And I know that I followed your work for the last few years, and there has been a more recent change. And I'm really interested to learn more about the thinking behind some of the work that you're doing, which is presumably a combination of illustration, Photoshop, AI.
Yeah.
And so these are examples of the work. So would you like to give us a bit of a narrative about some of these images?
Yes, because you said it. I think there's too much nice pictures around. You know what I mean? Um, I've been in politics. I've been traveling around all Europe in work, and I'm more like a storyteller. I like to grow a bit down, and I like to use my fantasy a bit more than maybe some others who want to have the aesthetics.
Yeah.
So I'm growing more and more into kind of some wild things, unpredictable, and that's my thing. I just want to be that because at once you're wow, don't shoot me. Uh, uh, because I think if you're predictable, then and like in this Mrs. here, she's going to. If you're not marrying me now, I'm going to shoot you. That's the thing.
Love it.
When he, yeah.
And so
So
how do I noticed that these are available. How are they acquired? Are they NFTs or
no, I
no?
no, I gave up NFTs long time ago because there was so much swindles for me at least. I lost a lot of money and artworks as well.
So is this provided as a limited edition print? How is it delivered?
Well, the originals I only sell one to one on every originals, but I have copies up to 10, limited editions that are, of course, are cheapest. I make I make these. I'm not square. Well, I am square, but I'm thinking. I have one. Uh, I like to make square drawings.
Right,
But the thing is, I'm doing it 600 DPI and 15,000 and 15,000 pixels
right. So
at
the
once.
okay, so the deliverable is a printed piece of work that is from the original digital artwork, is it?
Yeah, so we talk about it could be, well, you don't. I would say 2.5 to 3 meters each way.
Right. Without any loss of detail.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
be, because of the
High resolution.
high
Yeah.
resolution. Yes, yes.
Yeah. I mean, these are wonderful. I love these. I love that. That's great.
Well, she's trendy on a cafe or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is great. So this is at klemenza.art.
Yeah,
If you'd like to, if anyone would like to go and have a look at more of the work. So thank you for that. Excellent. Now
yeah,
that's given me inspiration for your fantasy cultural year. Okay.
yeah. Okay, yeah,
Because I need to place you somewhere in the world. And I'm going to
okay.
do that by asking you, what's your favorite building?
My favorite building could be. Wow. There's a lot of buildings I've never been in, also. So, but then, you're difficult with the question. Uh,
It doesn't have to be a building you visited. It could be one that you'd love to visit.
okay. Let's say the opera in Australia.
Oh, the
The
Opera House.
the opera house. Yes, yes.
That's a great choice. Okay. I'd like you to imagine that you're sitting at a pavement cafe outside the Opera House in Sydney. It's 6 p.m. on a June evening. Actually, probably not June because that would be winter time. On a
Yeah,
December evening, it's warm, sunny, and you're enjoying the view of that iconic building. There is a drink next to you. Okay.
yeah.
What would we find there?
A beer.
A beer,
Yeah.
a nice cold Australian lager.
Yeah. I'm very simple with that,
Okay.
just like the Vikings again.
Yeah, that's great. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a book next to you as well. It could be your favorite book. It could be a recent discovery. What book might we find there next to you?
Uh, Maybe the Bible.
Okay, some great stories in there. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
there are.
and you've got some headphones on and you're listening to some music. What are you listening to?
I think I would listen to what uh, Down Under. You remember that song,
Men at Work.
Man at Work. Sorry, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Men at Work. I'm living in a land down under.
yeah,
That one. That's it. So
yeah,
that's our picture. We've got the Sydney Opera House, a nice cold beer,
yeah.
a copy of the Bible, and Men at Work singing Man Down Under. Yeah,
Yeah,
love it.
it's
Love
it,
it.
it's Dali.
Yeah, that's Morton in a snapshot. There we go.
Yeah, yeah,
Now you're feeling quite pleased with yourself because you've come from a meeting inside the Opera House
yeah,
with a wealthy Australian family foundation.
yeah,
And this is fictitious, I should add.
yeah,
They have discovered your recent work and they love it.
yeah.
Okay. And they would like to send you around the world to be
Mhm.
inspired to create digital work that fosters peace and understanding and love around the world. Okay.
Okay.
Um, they're going to hire you for a year. The
Hmm.
fee is enormous. The travel is first class. So
Hmm.
is the accommodation. You can go anywhere in the world you like. A TV crew will follow you because you're going to be meeting digital artists all over the world.
Okay. Yeah.
There is a book deal in it. Um, you're going to do a TED talk when you get home,
Hmm.
and there is a global university lecture tour once you've completed the year. Okay. Friends and family can come and visit you while you're away at their expense.
Yeah.
Does that sound like fun?
Yeah. I
Good,
would say so. I would
good.
say so.
All you have to do is to decide where you'd like to start. You can go anywhere in the world. Where would you go first?
I think I would go to Milano.
Milano. I've loved watching the Winter Olympics in Milano recently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lovely. Excellent. Okay, you're on the plane from Sydney. Okay.
Yeah.
You turned left on the plane. The steward
Hmm.
brings you a beer
Yeah.
and a note from the Family Foundation. They've got a challenge for you. It's a musical challenge.
Ah.
They'd like you to limit your musical listening to one specific genre or type of music for 12 months. If you had to do that, I know it's horrible. If you had to do that, what what type of music would you choose to listen to?
Well, we're only living once. Maybe classical music.
That's a good choice. It's nice and broad. Yeah,
Yeah.
excellent. Um, now you we're on the flight and where did we go? Where did we decide we were going? We were going to
Milano.
Milano, sorry. Yes,
Yeah.
we arrive in Milan and a group of young digital artists meet you at the airport. They whisk you into the center of the city. You
Mm.
have a lovely loft apartment there. Um,
Yeah.
and they say, settle in, unpack, relax. We're going to come back and take you to a dance performance, and then we're going to take
Yeah.
you out to dinner.
Yeah.
Now, this is where the magic wand and the time machine comes in because I can put any dance-based performance on the stage in front of you.
Okay.
It could be any dance style, any dance group, any dancers, living or not. And you can watch it for 2 hours. In those circumstances, what dance performance would you like me to put on the stage?
Ooh, that's a good one. Maybe maybe some locals really. I'm not that looking up for the big stars. Well, if the stars come, they come. But some locals.
And perhaps some Italian folk,
Maybe young people.
young people doing traditional Italian folk music with a modern twist.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, folk dancing. I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
Now, what about dinner afterwards? I know we're in Milan, but you don't have to remain in Italian culture. You
No,
can
no, no.
What national cuisine would you choose for the restaurant?
Uh, a French duck.
A French duck. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, French duck.
But it has to speak French as well. Sorry.
Yes, a French
Yes, yes.
speaking duck. Yes,
Yeah.
not a German duck, a French duck.
No, no,
Yeah.
no, no. French.
I love it. Now we're going to buzz again to a different city in a different part of the world. Where are we going?
Um, I would like to go back to Munich.
Okay, back to
I
Munich.
I I love Munich. Yeah.
Okay. Um, it's sport day in Germany when we get there. Um,
Yeah.
we had breakdancing in the Olympics in Paris. We've got ice dancing in the Winter Olympics, dressage. There are synchronized swimming. Some sport is
Yeah.
clearly performance art.
Yeah.
Um, I can put any sporting event in front of you. What would you like to
Oh.
watch? What would you like to watch?
Uh, curling.
Curling.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I've tried that in Switzerland once.
You did.
I was rubbish. Yes.
Okay. 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 Curling because it seems very fun, but I'm sure it's very difficult.
I couldn't get into that position, let alone slide across the ice doing that.
Okay. By the way, I'm in a wheelchair, so I wouldn't
They do. I think
make it.
The Paralympic Winter Olympics are on at the moment, and there is wheelchair
Yeah,
curling. There is wheelchair curling.
they
So
have it. Okay.
yeah,
Thank you.
so
Thank you.
you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Um, Excellent. Now we're going to buzz again from there. Where are we going next?
Um, let's see. There's been so much talk about this country, and I've never been there, of course. Few have. So I would like to just jump over to Greenland.
Greenland. Okay.
Yeah, why not?
While it's still Danish.
Yeah, yeah. Or while it's still there,
Yeah.
kind of.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, in Greenland, I don't know what the capital of Greenland is. I can't remember, but
Yeah, I can't remember
yeah,
either now.
let's find out. Hold on.
Yeah.
Nuuk. It's Nuuk.
Nuke. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're in Nuuk, and
Yeah.
there is a new art gallery in Nuuk,
Okay.
and it's digitally enhanced so that you can put on some virtual reality glasses and you
Mm,
step into the work of a famous artist. It becomes three-dimensional. It's 360 degrees. You can walk around inside the painting. You can see in three dimensions what the artist could only show us in two.
yeah.
Which famous artist's work would you like to step into in those circumstances?
Um, I think I would step into the sea painter Sharat Pandit.
Oh, how do you spell that?
Sharat uh, Sierra Hotel Alpha. Uh, yeah,
Yeah, hang on.
and Pandit.
Um,
I just love his. He lives far away from the sea and in India, and
yeah,
you will find him on LinkedIn.
yeah, Sharat Pandit.
Yeah,
Um, Here we go. Sharat Pandit art. Is this, let me just share my screen and let's check we've got the right
yeah.
person. Is this the right artist?
Yeah, we had an interview with him. Yeah, one of yes, 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 yes,
Yeah,
it
well, look
is.
at that.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
because it's more than 3D or 4D or whatever they decide to call it. And
Yeah, But you get to walk around inside these paintings, which is
Yeah, and I would, yeah, you see, like in there, I would, well, it's only Jesus who walked on the sea, but I could use my wheelchair, of
you
course.
could. Yes,
Yeah,
great choice. Now, I'm going to whisk you back to London, okay?
yeah,
And you and I are going out together every night of the week to do something cultural every night. On Monday,
okay,
we're going back in time to a rock concert or,
okay,
or a pop concert or a
yeah,
classical concert, any music concert. On
yeah,
Tuesday, we're going to the theatre. On
yeah,
Wednesday, we're going to watch a musical.
okay,
On Thursday, we'll go to the opera. And
yeah,
on Friday, we go to the movies. Okay.
yeah.
And you and I, between us, can decide what we're going to see. So for Monday evening, is there a concert that you attended that you'd love to go back in time to experience again?
Yeah, the Eagles.
The Eagles. You got to see the Eagles.
Yeah,
Yeah. Wow. Hotel California.
yeah. For example, if you could tell me what it is all about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
On a dark desert highway. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, that's a great choice. Now we're in London, so we could go and
yeah,
see some Shakespeare if you wish
yeah.
at the
Mm.
at the Globe. What Shakespeare play would you like to watch?
That,
Macbeth, the Scottish play. Love it.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
For those who don't aren't familiar, Macbeth, you're not allowed to say the name Macbeth in a theatre,
No,
which is why it's called the Scottish play. Um,
yeah, yeah. Okay.
On on Wednesday, we're going to a West End or a Broadway musical. What would you like to see?
Ooh, ABBA.
ABBA, the musical.
Yeah,
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 absolutely. We could go to that virtual reality one.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Everything is possible in the world of art.
yes, especially in our fantasy cultural years. So we get to,
Yeah.
or we could go back in time and watch them perform Waterloo at the 1974 Eurovision.
Ah,
Yeah.
of course.
Now, are you an opera fan, Morten?
Uh, I've been at the opera, but I'm not. No, no, I wouldn't say so.
Okay, so we could go to a nice introductory opera,
Pa-
which
Pavarotti
yeah,
thing,
Pavarotti singing in La Boheme, Puccini's La Boheme at the
yeah, 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 yeah.
Royal Opera
But
House, Covent Garden.
yeah,
That would
but
be
I don't think him. He's so inspired by also other music. So I don't see him as an entire opera singer.
yeah. And for one of the world's most famous musicians, he never learnt to read music. Crazy.
Wow,
Yeah, he never learnt to read music.
holy moly!
Yeah, it was all done by ear. Incredible.
Oh,
And then finally, it's Friday and we're going to the movies. What are we
the
watching?
movies. Let's go and see. Uh, you're the one that I want. With
Oh, Grease.
Greece. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Olivia Newton-John and John
yeah,
Travolta. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I have an
Uh,
interesting fact about Grease.
okay.
It was the movie that cost the least and made the most.
Oh,
It cost $6 million to make that movie only,
okay.
and it's grossed hundreds of millions since with the musicals, the all of the spin-offs. It was
Yeah.
if you'd invested in Greece, you would never have to work again.
Okay, but
Yeah,
that would be boring. But
yeah,
I remember from my youth when that came, the movie and everything, when it was a bit fuss around it. I never will forget it. I'm not that fan of the music. Well, of course there's good singers and stuff like that, but it was an aura around that
Mm.
moment.
Yeah, I think part of the reason it was so inexpensive was that it Olivia Newton-John and John Travolta were not big stars then.
No.
So they didn't charge huge fees. There we go. That's our week done. Now I'm going to send you off to do this wonderful year of exploration and work. But before I do, I'm going to give you a hero lunch.
Oh,
We're in London at a beautiful restaurant, and you can invite one person to join you for lunch. It can be anyone you
mm,
like, famous or not, living or not. So,
okay.
who would you invite to spend a leisurely 2 hour lunch with?
Mm, I'm just thinking, not easy. Oh,
Hmm.
there's so many. Henry Kissinger.
Henry Kissinger.
Yeah,
Okay, great choice. Now, in a slight twist to that question, um, who would Henry Kissinger invite?
not me, but uh, I don't know.
I think he would, because you can go forwards and backwards in time.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think he would probably invite Nelson Mandela
Oh, that could be, or Mother Teresa maybe,
or possibly
and
Mother Teresa. But
yeah, yeah.
I think Henry Kissinger died while Nelson Mandela was in prison.
Ah,
So I think that would be a good shout. So
yeah, yeah.
there
And
we go.
we could have a lovely conversation.
That would be a fascinating lunch
Yeah,
conversation. Yeah.
but there should be a woman as well.
Yeah.
Uh,
Maya Angelou would be good
yeah.
there. Yeah. Uh,
Mortenson, we could get, she was Danish. This, come on, I forgot the name. Marilyn Monroe.
oh, yes. Marilyn Monroe, Henry Kissinger, and um, Nelson Mandela. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be a good lunch. Morton, thank you so much for being such a good sport and doing this today.
Yeah, oh,
Um,
lovely. And don't go to Nuke if you're not clear, because
no,
I'm thinking of nuclear.
yes.
That would be
Yeah, that would
thingy.
be a mistake. Yeah.
Yeah.
Morton, thank you again for being one of our full members. It's been a delight. Please don't rush off, but for the time being, I hope you've enjoyed your fantasy cultural year. And thanks again for being one of our full members.
And you who are watching, even if it's me, become a member. Come on, join the gang.
Thank you, Morton.